Hey there and welcome to BingeBot. We recap all the latest and greatest TV to help keep you in the loop. Today we're donning our cowboy hats as we check out Season 2 of the Western drama 1923, which serves as a prequel series to the acclaimed show Yellowstone. Season 2 continues the story of the Dutton family who must overcome continuous hardship as they brave the Western frontier. As always, if you guys want to support our channel, you can do so via YouTube memberships, Patreon, or Buy Me a Coffee. But for now, let's get right into our recap of the second and final season of 1923, starting with Episode 1, The Killing Season. Under threat from English tycoon Donald Whitfield and seemingly abandoned by their youngest heir, Spencer, the Dutton family and their Yellowstone mountain range in Montana faces dangers far greater than the brutal winter ahead. Racing an inbound blizzard, Spencer's uncle, Jacob Dutton, the head of the family, gathers his posse and rides into town to meet with a local judge about the violent arrest of the loyal foreman of his ranch, Zane Davis. Due to the prevailing racism of the 1920s, Zane is arrested for his interracial marriage to Alice, an Asian American woman. As a result, Alice and their two children are also detained, a move that Jacob perceives as another direct attack on their legacy by both Donald Whitfield and another one of the Duttons' bitter rivals, the sheepherder, Banner Creighton. With their letters to Spencer begging for his help going unanswered, the Duttons remain unaware of Spencer's own desperate fight to return home. Separated from his newlywed wife, Alexandra, Spencer works the boiler of a steamship to secure himself passage across the Atlantic Ocean, as he's currently still wanted for murdering Alex's ex-fiancé, Arthur II, the Earl of Sussex. Elsewhere, Native American teenager Tiana Rainwater continues to evade the bounty on her head for murdering her abusers at a Catholic boarding school. Safely reunited with her father, who's named Runs His Horse, and family friend Pete Plenty Clouds, the trio unknowingly set camp on the outskirts of a Texas ranch. There, Tiana and Pete have the freedom to finally explore the chemistry blooming between them. In pursuit, two marshals, Thomas and Kent, join Father Reynaud, a priest and also headmaster of the American Indian boarding school, to storm a Comanche camp in Oklahoma. Unprovoked, they shoot a few of the Native American men dead to force their cooperation in searching for Tiana.
Crow! Indian girl, 16 years old, have you seen her?
There are no Crow here.
My son is a man of God. I demand you release this child.
To drive home the message, Kent runs through a child on his horse without mercy. Across the Atlantic, Alex discovers that she's pregnant and in a fit of desperation, sells all of her jewelry to secure passage on the first ship out of England. Meanwhile, Spencer's ship pulls into port at Galveston, Texas, which he watches from the deck while smoking a cigarette. Neither him nor Alex yet at their final destination, but determined to reach it no matter the cost. Episode 2, The Rapist is Winter. Standing firm against local Judge Roy Garrett, Jacob demands custody of Zane and his whole family, but slyly, Garrett agrees to sentence them to a supervised probation, but only if they give him the name of the priest who signed Zane and Alice's marriage license. Quietly enraged Jacob, suspecting that Garrett is hiding a secret, rips open his desk drawer and finds a small bottle of liquor that he's been spiking his tea with. Given the presence of Sheriff William McDowell, a loyal friend of the Duttons, Garrett surrenders to the blackmail that they'd expose his illegal behavior and releases Zane and his family without further issue. Journeying home, things take a turn for the worse though as a deadly blizzard hits and the Duttons' posse are forced to flip their own wagon for shelter and huddle everyone beneath it to survive the night. In the much milder climate of Oklahoma, Father Reynaud, along with Thomas and Kent, work with the local marshal, Mamie Fawcett, to get wanted posters drawn up for Tiana. Accurately assessing the volatility of his character, though, Fawcett warns Kent to tread carefully in the area, but her warnings come too late. Avenging their fallen kin, select members of the Comanche tribe ambush the three men at their camp that night, killing Marshal Thomas cleanly with an arrow. Unfortunately, Kent and Reynaud's guns prevail over the tribe's bows and they manage to escape the camp unscathed. Just a state over, Spencer finds himself before the Galveston Mafia Syndicate. Through Luca Maceo, the young Italian man that he bonded with on the ship, he's introduced to Luca's cousin, the Syndicate's charming spearhead, Sal Maceo. Understanding Spencer's desperation to assist his family's fight for their land, Sal offers his help, but it comes with a catch. On offer is a truck to drive home, but only after Spencer has transported it to Fort Worth with Luca to drop off a load of bootlegged liquor first.
Send Luca back on the train. Truck is yours, if you can make it. I know what it's like to lose your home. Maybe now you can get back in time to save it.
Holding down the Duttons' fort, Jacob's wife Cara calls out Dr. Stephen Miller to treat her daughter-in-law, Elizabeth. Bitten by a starving wolf that slaughtered their chickens, Elizabeth must be periodically vaccinated against rabies. But due to the blizzard, Dr. Miller and his assistant are forced to stay the night. but the winter is fierce, and the wolf even fiercer. Back to finish the job, it breaks into the ranch and brutally kills the nurse on the sofa, and then next it bares its blood-stained teeth at Kara, who walks into the room wielding her rifle. As soon as the wolf attempts to attack her, Kara lets out a piercing scream and bravely pulls the trigger. Episode 3. Wrap Thee in Terror. Alive and well after shooting the wolf dead, Kara anxiously awaits Jacob's return while both mourning the life lost in their ranch and slapping sense to a hysterical Elizabeth about receiving her vaccines. Just as Dr. Miller prepares to leave, Jacob and his posse return home, having safely rode out of the storm. But suffering from a severe head injury inflicted during his arrest, Zane is hauled upstairs for examination. Diagnosing a buildup of fluid in his brain, Dr. Miller explains that the only remedy is an urgent operation to drill Zane's skull and drain the blood. Meanwhile, Alex's ship finally docks in New York Harbor, but without the correct travel documents, she's funneled through the U.S. immigration process instead. Suspicious of her story, the officers send her for a full physical, where she's stripped naked and forcefully examined with little regard shown to her dignity. Finding evidence of her pregnancy, though, the first doctor sends her to another, prompting a tearful confession that she's 4 months along. Infuriatingly, the final immigration officer accuses her of lying, having heard too many fabricated stories that are similar to her own. This causes something to snap within Alex, and she throws his own country's values about freedom, liberty, and justice right back into his face.
You regard me with no decency or compassion, all in the name of preserving a freedom I've seen no example exists. In fact, I would say this is the least free I have ever felt in my life.
And stunning him with her eloquence, she personally picks her own passage to read from the book that he provides, thus proving her value to the United States and securing herself a green card. While awaiting her train to Boston, however, Alex experiences the grim dangers of traveling alone as a woman. Following her into the bathroom, a thief roughs her up for what money she has. Knocking her unconscious against a toilet seat, he closes the stall door and leaves her amongst her belongings. Facing his own dilemma, Spencer's road trip with Luca to Fort Worth hits a roadblock. Though Sal provided money to bribe the officers and a gun if they refused to take it, Spencer doesn't fancy the risk of either. Ignoring Luca's protests, he denounces the job, ditches the truck, and starts making his way on foot. Just like Spencer did, Luca decides to put his own family's interest first and drives back to the roadblock alone. Watching from a hill, Spencer witnesses Luca nearly, but not quite, make it through. As anticipated, guns start firing and Luca attempts to speed off in a hail of bullets. To Spencer's dismay, one hits the mark and the car rolls to a slow stop as Luca slumps, motionless behind the wheel. All the while, Donald Whitfield quietly draws up plans for his latest scheme, a winter resort carved into the heart of Yellowstone. Inspired by a group of skiers, he explains to his latest business partner, Banner Creighton, that he wants to capitalize on the thrill of danger.
The one thing you cannot buy in a store is the euphoria of peril, the exhilaration of danger.
Unveiling these plans at a lavish dinner party, Whitfield rallies investors with a promise of unfathomable wealth. Greed blinds them to the destruction that such a project would cause, and as Creighton begins to realize how apathetic his new allies are, he starts to feel the moral weight of their heartlessness. Episode 4. Journey the Rivers of Iron. Despite his reluctance, Creighton is still approached by Whitfield about their plans. Tasking him with killing the Duttons, Whitfield shows Creighton a ghost county where he can legally dispose of their bodies. As if on cue, Whitfield's favorite prostitute, Lindy, reveals that she accidentally murdered another girl in their bed during a sadistic sexual encounter. Showing an utter disregard for the poor girl's life, Whitfield asks a horrified Creighton to dump her body into the aforementioned county, joking that it'll be good practice. Oblivious to the latest plot against them, the Duttons prepare Zane for an impromptu surgery with naught but a makeshift restraint board and a cloth soaked in chloroform to sedate him. Horrifically, the drug proves useless as Zane wakes up screaming the second Dr. Miller winds the drill into his skull. And though anguished, the instruments touch a part of his brain that turns him numb, allowing him to lie calmly and quietly as the operation proceeds with astounding success. Such astounding success, actually, that Zane immediately turns his sights towards revenge. With his wife and children now safe and his health stabilized, he steps back into his role as foreman and prepares to protect the ranch against its most imminent threat. Meanwhile, with minutes to spare before the final boarding call for Boston, a dazed Alex rouses to gather her belongings in a blind panic. Making it to the platform as the train's already rolling away from the station, Alex's desperation pushes her into an all-out sprint, and she throws her bag and then herself aboard. Unlike his family, Spencer's luck continues to plummet as he's picked up on the road by the local sheriff, who found him due to information that was given by Luca before he drew his final breath. Surrounded by the armed law enforcers, Spencer is coerced into delivering the truck of bootleg liquor to Fort Worth after all, but this time as an aid for the police. Successfully infiltrating the mafia base, the sheriff swiftly initiates a shootout and handcuffs Spencer to the steering wheel. Through the chaos, Spencer shoots off the restraint and tears away in the truck. Buying himself some time, he strategically crashes the truck to form a blockade between two others and races through the bustling town on foot. Escaping into a train yard, he sprints alongside a moving cargo freight, and much like Alex did to catch her own train, he throws his belongings aboard first and then just barely pulls himself up on as the train accelerates. Surprisingly, Spencer isn't the only one, though, who hopped the freight. Sharing the cart with 3 other hitchers, who immediately warn him of their bad intentions, Spencer settles into a corner with his shotgun in hand. Unable to resist the lull of sleep, however, he eventually drifts off, and despite waking with a knife at his throat, Spencer shocks the hitchers with strength over speed. Grabbing the wrist of an assailant in one hand, he uses the other to force his gun around and shoot the second hitcher. As the third lunges for him in the scuffle, Spencer shoots him too. Incapacitating the remaining hitcher by knocking her into the cart's wall, Spencer gathers his belongings and leaps from the train, and staying parallel to the tracks, he continues his long journey home. Episode 5. Only Gunshots to Guide Us. Closing in on Tiana, Marshal Kent and Father Reynaud speak with the rancher whose land that she made camp on. Having employed Tiana's help to run his cattle, the rancher correctly identifies her from the wanted poster and points Ken and Reynaud in the direction that she left town. Where they don't find Tiana, they manage to find Pete, who'd split off to search for water alone, and utterly spent, Pete's horse foams blood at the mouth and collapses during the short chase. As Pete's thrown from his horse, Kent shoots him down quickly with a single bullet. Pursuing Kent for all of the murders that he committed, Marshal Fawcett instead finds Spencer sleeping beneath a tree 30 miles from any water source. Escorting him back to the sheriff's office in the growing town of Amarillo, Fawcett makes a call. Contacting Montana, where Sheriff McDowell answers, she asks for confirmation regarding Spencer's identity. Though he supports Spencer's claims about his identity, McDowell urges him to stay where he is, lest he return to start a war.
Now you listen to me. You better stay in Texas if your plan is coming back here and starting a war.
As far as I know, war's already started.
You ain't stopped it.
Ignoring every word, Spencer hops on a train, courtesy of Fawcett, that's taking him home. Over in Alex's train, without any money to pay for food, she brokers a deal with the manager to work the dining cart in exchange for meals. Already rattled by her situation, she reaches her limit when a man sexually assaults her during a morning shift in the dining cart. And refusing to let the man get away with his repulsive behavior, she pours hot coffee over his lap and smashes his face repeatedly with the empty pot, breaking his teeth in the process. Despite her protests that he attacked her, Alex is locked in a tiny cell until the train stops in Chicago. And met with a swarm of officers, Alex is saved by the intervention of a rich English couple who witnessed the entire ordeal and confirmed to the police that she was in fact the victim. Episode 6. The Mountain Teeth of Monsters. Enamored by Alex's story, the English couple, Paul and Hillary, draw up immediate plans to drive her straight to Montana personally. However, the exciting road trip meets a tragic, icy end in Wyoming as a fierce blizzard buries the car and freezes Alex's new friends to death, leaving her stranded alone once more. Mere hours away in Montana, Creighton forces an urgent meeting with Whitfield about the danger of Spencer's imminent return. However, Whitfield and Lindy have a new girl, Mabel, to play with, and Creighton interrupts another disturbing scene. Shackled naked in an impossible position on the bed, Mabel is terrified beneath Whitfield's instructions for Lindy to cause her an explicit amount of pain to offset the pleasure. Forcing Creighton to speak as Mabel cries behind him, Whitfield demonstrates to Creighton for the final time that he lacks both conscience and a heart. Meanwhile, the Duttons prepare for Spencer's return on a heads-up from the loyal McDowell. Expecting Creighton and his men to make their own moves to kill Spencer when he steps off the train, Jacob posts up at the Livingston station to wait, too. Though designated to protect the ranch, Jack Dutton, Jacob's great-nephew and Elizabeth's husband, decides to leave his post and follow Jacob into town. Unfortunately, he ends up getting caught in the woods by Creighton's men, and unaware of who they are, he answers their questions about his identity with an easy smile. Such friendliness sadly earns him a bullet in the chest, and Jack falls from his horse dead. Back in the dry plains of Texas, runs his horse, and Tiana tragically find Pete's body slumped against that of his horse. Strangely, they also find the dead body of Marshal Kent with bullet wounds in his chest. For his own faithless behavior, Father Reynaud shockingly killed Kent without mercy. Crazed by the violence, cruelty, and sin displayed by Kent, he continues his hunt for Tiana, locating their camp easily upon nightfall. Though Runs his horse spots Reynaud creeping out of the bushes, he's too slow on the draw, and Reynaud shoots him down. Rushing to Tiana, Reynaud begs her to repent and accept Jesus as her savior, but upon her refusal, he tries to shoot her too, but he's run out of bullets. Seizing her chance, Tiana crushes the smoldering ashes of their campfire against Reynaud's face and stabs him as he screams. Finishing him off with Runs his horse's gun, Tiana stands victorious, but at the cost of losing everything she's ever known and everyone that she's ever loved. Episode 7. A Dream and a Memory. Having tracked Kent and then Reynaud all the way to Tiana's campfire, Marshal Fawcett is happy to forget about the case until a spooked Tiana takes a shot at them from the ridge. Though the ensuing chaos results in Tiana killing the accompanying sheriff, Fawcett listens to her side of the story. Despite sympathizing, she remains stern, arresting Tiana and sending her through the court system. Thankfully, with no real evidence of her crimes and the key witnesses now deceased, the judge dismisses the case instantly and Tiana walks away, truly and finally free. Seeking his own freedom in Montana, Creighton finally turns his back on Whitfield. Terrified of how deeply Whitfield's sadism runs, he books his family on a sleeper car on the same train Spencer is due to arrive on. Suspicious of Creighton's true intentions, Jacob warns him off of running away, but agrees to seeing his family to safety through the looming chaos instead.
I've got a son, Jacob. What have I been teaching him? Just so long as they get to leave. Can you give me that?
Yeah. I can give you that.
Unfortunately, their train hits a lengthy delay, for somewhere along the snowy tracks, Alex's bitter bid for survival reaches its final and most critical peak. Having started a small fire in the back of the car for warmth, Alex feeds the flames to set the entire vehicle ablaze upon spotting incoming steam engine, unaware that this is the same train that Spencer is on. From his window seat on said train, Spencer recognizes Alex screaming and waving for help, and immediately he sprints the length of the train and in his urgency to reach her, leaps straight from the back carriage and onto the tracks. Reunited amidst ice and snow, Alex approaches a cold death. High on adrenaline, Spencer is willing to carry her for miles into town until the train, thankfully, returns to pick them up. Aboard, she's examined by a doctor and revealed to have a horrific case of frostbite. Consequently, they're ordered to stay on the train until they reach Montana, where an ambulance will be waiting to transport Alex to the hospital. However, as they roll into Livingston, Spencer notices the armed men on the station, Jacob included, and moves with due caution. Clocking Spencer, one of Creighton's men shoots at him through the window, shattering the glass and plunging the platform into chaos. Among the cacophonous crack of bullets and shouts of pain, McDowell takes a hit, but survives, and from the ground he fires a killing shot into Creighton's chest, who dies happy on Jacob's word that his family, at least, escaped freely. Successfully defeating their enemies at the station, Jacob warns Spencer that the ranch too will be under fire by Whitfield's men, and torn between his home and his wife, Spencer reluctantly agrees to help his family first, while Jacob remains to protect Alex all the way to the hospital. While Whitfield's men are met with unexpectedly fierce resistance on the ranch, Spencer rolls up with his crew to flank the assailants. Using his honed hunter's instinct and trained military skills, Spencer single-handedly wipes them out with impressive ease. In his swift precision, Spencer renders his own crew and their guns useless. Through their relief, however, the Duttons realize that Jack's still not with them. Urgently, Kara sends them back out to find him, and sadly, they do. Before witnessing the return of Jack's dead body, however, Kara accompanies Spencer to visit Alex, whose health has taken an alarming turn for the worst. At any chance to save her life, they need to amputate her hands and her feet, as they're incurable from the frost damage. Unfortunately, even though she's only 6 months pregnant, Alex goes into labor before the surgery can take place. Against all professional advice, Alex puts her baby's life ahead of her own, and against all odds, her baby boy draws his first breath into the world. Defiant till the end, Alex refuses to be separated from her baby, John II, and accepts the finality of her fate. Upon Spencer's arrival, Alex lies weak and dying with his shockingly premature son cradled to her chest. As the reality of her decision sinks in, Spencer curls up to sleep next to his wife and son for the last and first time. Come morning, Spencer wakes next to Alex's cold corpse. Frozen until Kara enters the room and retrieves the fragile little John, Spencer storms from the room and demands that Jacob take him to Whitfield, as his treacherousness is the reason that Spencer is forced to rush back home, ultimately leading to Alex's death. Together, they sweep through Whitfield's mansion, killing those who fight back and allowing the rest to flee. And bursting in on Whitfield's breakfast with his 2 prostitutes, Spencer asks Mabel, who's sporting a black eye, if she likes it there, and shaking her head no, Spencer mercifully lets the young woman bolt to safety. Loyal to the end, Lindy's weak attempt to protect Whitfield from a knife proves futile against Spencer's gun, and taking a shot to the stomach, Whitfield hears Jacob's promise to make an example out of him.
I plan on making such an example of you that it'll be 50 years before one of your kind dares enter this valley again. I want them teaching about how you died.
Then, forcing him to say Alex's name, Spencer shoots Whitfield in the head, and the Dutton men seal their victory by sending the entire mansion up in flames. Though the war for their land has been won, the empty spaces it created echo through the Dutton clan for decades more. Following Jack's death, the pregnant Elizabeth returns to her family in Boston, promising to remain in touch with the Duttons. As for Spencer, out of his love and respect for Alex, he never remarried. 45 years pass, and Spencer shuffles out to Alex's grave, where he lies down and closes his eyes one last time. As per the course for their love, she's awaiting him at a grand ball during his dying moments, dressed to the nines in white lace, and ready to dance with him all the way to eternity. And that's the end of 1923. Just like Yellowstone, I think this prequel did a pretty excellent job at showcasing the brutal and the unforgiving life on the western frontier, complete with memorable characters and some satisfying closure. Of course, if you enjoyed 1923 and you haven't checked out Yellowstone yet, I highly recommend it. Also, thanks for checking out our recap and for watching through until the end. If you guys liked this video, consider sharing it with a friend or maybe just dropping us a like, and if you want to see more content like this, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a new video. We appreciate all of our loyal viewers and like-minded binge watchers, so another big thank you goes out to everyone who's watching, whether you've been following us for years or you're new to the channel. We'll be back soon with more recaps, top 10 lists, and much more, but for now, BingeBot is logging off.